Imagine standing on the walls of Rome. The year is 216 BC. You have just received word that your army, 80,000 soldiers, the finest fighting force the Republic has ever assembled, has been annihilated. Not defeated, annihilated. 70,000 Romans dead in a single afternoon, the ground so thick with bodies that survivors could not find footing. The Aufidus River ran red for 3 days. And the man responsible? He is not at your gates, not yet, but he is coming. His name was Hannibal Barca, son of Carthage, sworn enemy of Rome since the age of 9. And for 15 years, he would come closer to destroying the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen than any enemy before or after. This is the story of why he almost won. To understand Hannibal, you must first understand what Rome had already done to his world. By the 3rd century BC, 2 powers dominated the Mediterranean. Rome, the rising republic of iron discipline and relentless expansion, and Carthage, the ancient Phoenician city-state of North Africa, whose merchant fleets controlled the sea lanes of the Western world. They had been rivals for decades, uneasy, circling. Then, in 264 BC, they went to war. The First Punic War lasted 23 years, 23 years of catastrophic naval battles, plague, famine, and financial ruin on both sides. Rome ultimately won, barely, and Carthage was forced to surrender Sicily and pay crushing reparations that would cripple her economy for a generation. It was a humiliation Carthage would not forget. And no one felt that humiliation more deeply than a general named Hamilcar Barca. Hamilcar had fought Rome to a standstill in Sicily, undefeated in the field, but surrendered by politicians. The peace treaty felt to him like a knife in the back. Legend tells us that when his young son, a boy of 9, begged to join him on campaign in Spain, Hamilcar agreed. But first, he brought the boy to the altar of the gods and made him place his hand upon the sacred flame. He made him swear an oath of eternal hatred toward Rome. That boy was Hannibal. He would keep that oath for the rest of his life. By 221 BC, Hamilcar was dead, and Hannibal had assumed command of Carthage's armies in Spain. He was 25 years old. He spent 2 years consolidating power, studying his enemy, and planning. Rome expected any Carthaginian invasion to come by sea, the same route as before. They had naval supremacy. They would intercept any fleet. Hannibal had no intention of using the sea. What he planned instead was so audacious, so seemingly impossible, that Rome didn't even consider it a threat until it was too late. He would march his army overland, through Spain, through southern Gaul, across the Pyrenees, across the Rhone, and then across the Alps. In the autumn of 218 BC, Hannibal set out from Carthage Nova with an army of approximately 90,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. What crossed the Alps 15 weeks later was something far smaller and far more dangerous. The Pyrenees alone cost him 13,000 men, deserters mostly, soldiers who looked at the mountains ahead and walked home. The passage through Gaul brought skirmishes with hostile Celtic tribes. The Rhone crossing, with 40,000 soldiers and 37 elephants fighting the current, remains one of the great logistical feats of the ancient world. And then, the Alps. We don't know exactly which pass Hannibal used. Scholars have debated it for 2,000 years. What we know is what it cost him. The army climbed for 15 days through October snowfall. Paths collapsed beneath them. Rock slides, triggered by hostile mountain tribes, buried entire columns of men. Horses and elephants, terrified by the terrain and the cold, fell into ravines. Soldiers who slept without shelter didn't wake up. By the time Hannibal stood on the southern ridge and looked down at the plains of Italy for the first time, at the green valleys he had promised his men, he had lost half his army. He had started with 90,000 men. He descended into Italy with perhaps 38,000. Any rational military commander would have considered the campaign already lost. Hannibal considered it just beginning. Rome's response was swift. 2 consular armies were dispatched to intercept the invader. The Romans were confident. Their legions were the most disciplined fighting force in the world, and they outnumbered Hannibal 2-1. They had never faced anyone like him. At the Trebia River in December 218 BC, Hannibal drew the Romans into battle on ground of his choosing. He understood something crucial about Roman tactics. They were a machine built for brute force, unbreakable center. So he didn't attack the center. He hid his best troops in the reeds along the riverbank. When the Roman legions crossed the freezing river and crashed into Hannibal's lines, Hannibal's concealed force erupted from the flanks. 26,000 Romans died. Hannibal lost perhaps 5,000. He had barely arrived in Italy. 6 months later, at Lake Trasimene, he did it again. Only this time, he didn't just beat the Romans, he humiliated them. He hid an entire army, 40,000 men, in the forested hills above a narrow coastal road. When the Roman consul Flaminius marched his legions into the defile in morning fog, Hannibal closed the trap. The battle lasted 3 hours. 15,000 Romans died, including Flaminius himself. Another 10,000 were taken prisoner. Some soldiers caught in the press drowned in the lake trying to escape. Rome was stunned. An earthquake struck the city the same day. People took it as an omen. But even Trebia, even Trasimene were preludes, warm-up acts for what was coming. Because in the summer of 216 BC, near a small village in southern Italy called Cannae, Hannibal achieved something that military historians still study and still struggle to fully explain more than 2,000 years later. The Romans had learned their lesson, so they thought. No more narrow passes, no more fog. They would meet Hannibal in open ground, where Roman discipline and Roman numbers would decide everything. 86,000 Romans, 40,000 Carthaginians. The Romans formed their killing line, deep, dense, unstoppable. Hannibal saw it and did something that made no tactical sense. He made his center deliberately weak. His best troops, his Africans, he placed on the flanks. His weakest infantry, the Gauls and Spanish, he placed in the center, pushed forward in a convex bulge toward the Roman line. The Romans hit the center, and it gave way. Slowly at first, then faster, the bulge inverting, the Romans pressing forward, triumphant, certain of victory. They pressed forward into a pocket. And then Hannibal closed it. His African veterans pivoted inward from both flanks. His cavalry, having already routed the Roman horse, swept around and closed the back door. 80,000 Romans were now inside a shrinking ring of steel. What followed was not a battle, it was a slaughter. The Romans were packed so tightly they could barely raise their sword arms. Men suffocated standing up. Some killed themselves to escape the crush. The killing went on for hours. When it was over, 70,000 Romans were dead. Among them, 80 senators, 2 consuls, and the finest army the Republic had ever fielded. In a single afternoon. Cannae was not just a military defeat. It was an existential shock, a wound to Rome's sense of itself that would not fully heal for generations. And Hannibal, against all probability, had done it. Here is where history takes its strangest turn. After Cannae, Hannibal's generals urged him to march immediately for Rome. His cavalry commander, Hannibal, is said to have told him, In 5 days you will dine in the capital. Come, I will go ahead and make ready." Hannibal refused, and in that refusal, historians have argued ever since, he lost the war. Why did he stop? The debate has never been settled. Some argue he lacked siege equipment to breach Rome's walls. Others say he was waiting for Carthage to send reinforcements that never came, because the Senate in Carthage, jealous of his victories and wary of the cost, withheld them. Others argue something more profound. Hannibal's entire strategy was never to destroy Rome. It was to decapitate Rome's alliance system, to show Rome's Italian allies that she could not protect them, and peel them away one by one until Rome stood alone, friendless and surrounded. And for a time, it worked. After Cannae, several major Italian cities defected to Hannibal. Capua, the second largest city in Italy, opened its gates. But most didn't, because Rome did something Hannibal had not anticipated. Rome refused to break. After Cannae, Carthaginian ambassadors arrived in Rome offering peace terms. The Senate didn't even let them inside the city walls. Rome conscripted slaves and armed them, freed debtors in exchange for military service, sent children and old men to the walls, kept fighting. A new strategy emerged, championed by a general named Quintus Fabius Maximus, later nicknamed Cunctator, the Delayer. No more pitched battles, no more playing Hannibal's game. Instead, harassment, cutting supply lines, attacking foraging parties, wearing the Carthaginian army down through attrition in a country that was never fully his. For 13 more years, Hannibal marched through Italy, brilliant, undefeated in the field, and increasingly irrelevant. He could win every battle, but he could not win the war. He had no siege engines, no supply line, no reinforcements. Carthage sent him men once, a trickle compared to what he needed. His brother Hasdrubal led a second army over the Alps in 207 BC to link up with him. Hasdrubal's head arrived in Hannibal's camp, thrown by Roman cavalry. It was, by any account, the moment Hannibal knew. Rome had endured. Rome had adapted. Rome was winning the war in Spain, cutting off Carthage's silver and manpower at the source. And a young Roman general, barely 30 years old, reckless and brilliant, was about to take the war to Africa itself. His name was Scipio Africanus. In 203 BC, Hannibal was recalled to Carthage. After 15 years in Italy, 15 years of marching, fighting, winning, and being slowly starved of everything he needed to finish the job, he sailed home. He had never been defeated. He would not stay undefeated. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Scipio turned Hannibal's own tactics against him: the encirclement, the flanking cavalry, the trap. For the first and only time in his life, Hannibal lost a pitched battle. Carthage sued for peace. The terms were devastating: territory, fleet, war elephants, and a century's worth of reparations stripped away. Hannibal spent his remaining years in exile, advising Rome's enemies, hunted by Roman agents who never forgot and never forgave what he had done to them. In 183 BC, surrounded and about to be captured, he swallowed poison. His last recorded words were said to have been, "Let us relieve the Romans of their anxiety, since they think it too long to wait for the death of an old man." So, why did Hannibal almost destroy Rome? Because he was, without question, the greatest military tactician of the ancient world. a commander who understood human psychology, terrain, momentum, and the geometry of battle in ways his opponents simply did not. He crossed the Alps, he won Trebia, Trasimene, Cannae. He did things that should have been impossible and made them look inevitable. And why didn't he finish it? Because Rome was more than an army. Rome was an idea, a system, a culture of endurance so deeply embedded in its people that even the annihilation of its legions could not break it. Hannibal could destroy Roman soldiers. He could not destroy Rome's will. That is the lesson Scipio learned from studying his greatest enemy. That is the lesson Rome learned and carried forward into the empire that would rule the world for 500 more years. And that is why 2,000 years later, we still tell this story, because it was the closest the ancient world ever came to a different future.